Hi guys and welcome. I am Enigmius and this is episode 2 of the Extreme Builders Compendium. It's been a little while since the last episode and I apologize for that. I got busy with a lot of other things. I got the Builder's Guide going on and then I had to take a bunch of time away from that just to keep building my structure so that I could continue with the Builder's Guide, but it wasn't the kind of thing that really would fit in the Extreme Builders Compendium because it was all little details, adding little details here and putting in a floor there, and it wasn't really all that entertaining. But as you can see, we're starting to get the basement filled in. We're all the way down to the bedrock level now. All the walls are in. Everything is pretty much done except for the floors. I've still got to finish that floor. That's going to be the floor for my automated crafting area. And then I've got maybe two more levels that I could squeeze into here, and then this bottom level I think is going to be for my soul shard cage things with all my monster farms. So the one thing that I realized after the last episode is there's really only so much that I can do by way of giving you guys tours of facilities that I've already built. I don't really think that's very entertaining, and it's not really as helpful as it could be either, to be showing you things after they've already been done. So instead, what I've decided to do is focus on things as I'm building them. So when I get the roof on here, someday I'll probably do an episode on that. When I get the details on the outside, it's large enough I could probably get an episode out of that. You can see it's just a big cylinder right now. It's not really all that interesting, so probably do some things with that. Kind of similar to what I've done up here. You can see I've got some details on the outside that kind of break it up a bit. But today, we're going to be looking at this guy in the background. I just started building this and I used a mod called Camera Studio that lets you record footage from a third-person point of view. So that allows me to focus on just building the structure, and then I've got basically a robot that's going around with the camera kind of recording everything. So that's kind of cool. There'll be a link to that in the information section below the video if you want to mess around with it and have fun. But I would suggest if you're wanting to use it and you have any questions about it, you want to direct those questions to the forum post that I'm linking you to, because all I know about it is how to make it do the things that I want to do, and I'm really not in a position to be offering tech support. Now there's one other resource that I wanted to share with you guys before we get into the build proper, and that's a web resource. It's a website called Plotz. Some of you may already be familiar with it, that has like a little Java applet where you can go in and enter dimensions for like a circle or an ellipse, and it will show you on screen and very easy to see block formation, how to make that appear in a Minecraft world. So if you want a circular base for a structure, or if you want a circular column for a tower, you can enter the information into Plotz and it'll give you that exactly how you want to set it up. So the website for that, it'll be in the comments section below. It's www.plotz.co.uk, but it's Plotz spelled P-L-O-T-Z. Check that out if you're wanting to do circles in your world. They've also got some other structures involving circles and things of that nature, and spheres that you can use if you want to add just a little bit of visual interest. If you're tired of the cubes and the rectangles, it's definitely a place you want to check out. So that's all of the resources for this episode. Now we'll just get into the build itself. So you can see this is literally the very beginning of the build. And I'm building it on a slab of basalt cobblestone, which actually extends all the way under the green area there. That's because I was tired of filling in the divots created by creepers. So basalt cobblestone, explosion resistant, I don't have to worry about it so much anymore. And now one of the things that I want to point out is just that I'm using dirt. That might seem pretty obvious, but there's a reason for it, and it's simply because it's a lot easier to make adjustments, especially when I'm trying to get a particular shape or a particular profile without a specific plan. So you can see, as far as the legs go, they go in fairly straightforward. They're an ellipse, or specifically half of an ellipse that I used Plotz to generate. And then once I get the ellipse in place and I'm kind of happy with that, I actually start bending it in, so to speak, so that the top starts to bend in towards the center of the slab, and that gives it sort of the curved look, which gives it, you know, more visual interest than if I had just, you know, built the tower out of the ground on some sort of crazy linear base sort of thing. Now, I'm not opposed necessarily to straight lines. I just feel that if I'm not adding a curve here or a circle there, that I'm not really challenging myself as much as I could be. If someone likes straight lines in their constructions, then, you know, then that's what they should be using. But for me, I've been, ever since Tekkit, I've been, you know, messing around with different circles and curves and things of that nature to try and get a feel for what I'm happiest with the end result. So I'll do circles here, ellipses there, sort of off shapes, you know, wherever I can. And then if there's straight elements to it, you still get that sense that there's more to it than just someone, you know, working in a square or a rectangular pattern throwing down blocks. So you can see now I'm bending in the arches so that they take on that sort of bent look. And I'm only really working with 2 at a time for the most part right now. You can see the one in the far area, there's not even more than a couple of dirt blocks there. And that's because sometimes it makes sense to do things only 1 or 2 at a time and worry about those and make sure that those work out okay, than to invest a bunch of time into a bunch of repetitions of a particular idea only to have it not work out. So now that I'm satisfied that everything is sort of more or less acceptable, now I can put in the 4th arch and everything should, you know, work out. If I would stop chasing around the monsters. You see there, I had to cannibalize part of the pole because I ran out of dirt, which is fine. The pole was a one-use kind of thing, and it could be there or not be there. It doesn't really matter at this point. So I'm just about done with the arches. I'm kind of looking around, trying to get an idea, make sure that everything is correct, everything is symmetrical, everything is the way that I want it to look, which it ends up not being for that part there, which is fine. This is the best time to find out, as opposed to when the whole structure is complete and you realize, oh my god, that whole thing looks like crap. So I'm just going to push out the little middle section of the top of each arch now. And I think that will be about all that I did with the dirt. Yeah, now I start switching out the dirt for the marble brick. So I know exactly where all the marble bricks go. I just have to break a dirt block, put a brick there. And once that gets done, it starts to feel like, you know, this is a structure in the works. When it's just being built out of dirt, it's more, you know, like a sculpture that you could just as easily smash. But now with the bricks going into place, it starts to feel like it's going to turn into something. And it doesn't really, compared to doing it out of a more resilient block like cobblestone or the marble or whatever, I've always found, especially since I started doing it with dirt, it's still faster to do it with dirt and then swap in the proper bricks than it is to do it all with the proper bricks and have to break and tweak as you go. So once I get these guys done, now it's time to start joining them together so that they look like a unified structure as opposed to just a few sort of lines sticking up out of the ground. And here's sort of, I was maybe not doing this the best way. It seems to have turned out okay for now, but really what I should have been doing was just focusing on one leg and sort of keeping a perspective on it from the front so that I made sure that it looked the way I wanted it to, and then go around to the other legs and duplicate it. But in this case, with a little bit of tweaking, they turned out all right, and they're not so large that I can't go back later and continue tweaking them a bit just to get them exactly the way I wanted. I know I'm already going to be going back through the structure once it's, you know, done for all practical intents and purposes, and go over it with micro blocks just to refine the edges and make it look a little less chunky if I can. You can see I'm bouncing up and down there. That's because of my jetpack hovering and just kind of trying to get an idea of how things are fitting together, and, you know, are they looking smooth or are they looking really blocky and sort of jagged? And it's kind of hard to tell the difference sometimes, but in this case, it's, like I say, it's adequate for now. And it's one of those things where once I start working with the micro blocks as well, I can get a better feel for how it's going to turn out in the final finished stage. But with the legs mostly done, then it switches to a completely different sort of mode, which is the vertical mode. And it's because I use a jetpack for all of my construction, even though I have a, you know, the Gravisuit chest plate, I still use a jetpack for construction because it works better vertically and because it uses way less fuel. So with my, what is it, the ultimate solar helmet, I don't even have to be in the sun. I can be, you know, nighttime in the rain or whatever, and it's plenty from the solar helmet to keep the jetpack charged all the time. The only time that my jetpack ever runs out is if I'm using it indoors. So being able to take advantage of the vertical aspect like that quickly and easily is a really big asset. I can't imagine doing a structure like this with nerd poles, you know, climbing up and doing all that other stuff, or scaffolding. It would just be a tremendous amount of time that I don't have to invest because I use a jetpack. So now you can see it's going pretty quickly. You know, once I get sort of a general profile in place, and I'm leaving gaps in between, and it's, you know, I was mostly just trying to get the profile, and then I realized with those gaps that it might look kind of cool if I filled in those gaps with regular marble blocks instead of the marble bricks, just to give it a little bit of contrast in the textures. So that's what I will end up doing once I get done with this part here, which is sort of another visual element that I wanted to add in. Because this isn't intended as a facility where I'm going to be spending a lot of time, it's more about the visual for me. Like, it won't be until we get above this area here that I'm working on that we actually start putting in the functional elements of the structure. Everything that you see on the screen right now is there to make it tall and to make it look like something more interesting than a dirt pole. So this is sort of, the idea was to have kind of like 4 shields around the tower, something resembling 4 shields, but more like, instead of a shield shape that you might think of with like the flat top and then it's sort of straight sides and curves down at the bottom, it's more like inverted eggs, I guess, would be one way of putting it. And it is, again, is strictly, you know, it doesn't have any thematic meaning. It's just something other than, you know, straight tower walls. So this was kind of one of the trickier parts, and it took a little bit longer than I anticipated, just because I'm working in sort of 3 layers. You can see if you looked at on the left side there, it sort of bends in a couple of times. And that's just to give a little bit of depth to the shields instead of just having, you know, straight panels like you see on the front there. So getting those in place and then tweaking them to get them the way I like them, and trying to carry that shape over to the next one and the next one and the next one takes a little while. But I mean, that's part of the fun. I mean, investing the time in the aesthetic elements is, again, one of the things that sets apart the structure from look at my awesome rectangle. So then I realized that if I was doing the marble blocks on the tower section, that I might as well use them on the shield areas as well. So I started doing that, and then the game crashed. So I didn't get a chance to show you how I put in the ones in the vertical elements, but same as I put in the vertical elements that you did see. I basically use my jetpack, shoot up in the air as I'm going. I'm right-clicking as fast as I possibly can to get them into place. Went in really, really quickly, and it's kind of tough to see from here. You can sort of see it on the central shield, just how it's a little bit different where the marble blocks are as opposed to the marble bricks. And I kind of like the way that it turns out, which is not to say that that'll be the full extent of the accents that I'll be adding or anything like that, but I thought it was a nice step towards the direction of something that was interesting. So I'll be continuing that sort of theme throughout the rest of the build. But right now I'm just trying to, the first shield is more or less in place, and now I'm trying to get the second one in and wondering what would happen if I got struck by lightning. I've never been struck by lightning in the game, and I'm not really sure I want to know what it's like. So yeah, there was a lot of lightning when I was doing this. So for now, it's looking kind of like a tower. You know, the top is, you know, someone coming along who hadn't been privy to this conversation so far might be like, what the hell is that? But until it actually gets complete with the turbines in place, I think it'll be one of those things that's kind of like, yeah, that's you know, it's interesting, I guess. You know, it's when someone says, I guess, it's instantly a backhanded compliment, whatever they said before. So now I've decided that I've got 2 in place, and I know that the camera's not going to rotate around to the other side. So rather than focus on the last 2 shields, I figured I would just, you know, get this little section in place, and then I wanted to get an idea for where I'm going to have the battery boxes. So the wind turbines will feed the Blutricity by the 10 kilovolt cables into some central area, which is what I'm building now. And, you know, that'll be filled with bat boxes that'll be cycling BT batteries in and out. So I basically get the arms in place. You can see I've got the 4 arms, and then I start joining it with the circle. And I like to do it that way with the 4 arms because that gives me a chance, again, to gauge the size and the dimensions before I invest a ton of time into it. If there's going to be a time when I find out I don't like it, the sooner the better. So once I've got that into place, it's just a matter of filling in with more marble blocks, and then that's about as far as I got. So next episode, we're going to pick up where I left off, probably finish off the structural elements, get some arms in for the turbines, and I don't know if we'll have time for micro blocks, but we'll see what we can do. So again, the resources, check the links in the information section below the video, and if you like the video, make sure to subscribe to my channel so you know when the next one is added. And thanks for watching, guys. Take care.